KIRO, Seattle.
This is COVID-19 Seattle. I'm Dave Ross.
And I'm Aaron Granillo.
The coronavirus cuts the state budget. More on what Governor Inslee vetoed today to account for lost revenue.
The Kirkland nursing home, connected to more than 24 coronavirus deaths, faces a big federal fine.
Parking during the pandemic.
Finally today, they've made the decision. All street parking is going to be free.
Plus socks, donuts, and now an official bobblehead featuring Dr. Fauci.
Stay right here.
The state is losing a lot of money, a lot of lost revenue because of the coronavirus. And because of that, Governor Jay Inslee is vetoing several bills to try to save money. KIRO Radio's Hannah Scott joins us. And one of these bills, it sounds like, is related to early childhood learning.
Yes, the part he vetoed includes several $1 million to subsidize childcare in early learning facilities in rural parts of the state. So there's kind of an inequity there. So this money would have been used to allow those facilities to get the same amount as some other private facilities.
Yeah, I know during the governor's news conference yesterday, he mentioned that he was going to veto bills that he likes, that he supports. I know he was a big supporter of early childhood learning. Any indication on why he chose this measure, or is it just come down to the millions of dollars he could save from this specific measure?
Yeah, it comes down to the millions of dollars. You have to pick and choose and be careful. There was a couple of other early learning kind of policy bills that didn't have as much financial impact attached to them that he did sign today, which I wasn't sure if he was going to. There's a bill that they've been trying to get through forever that does away with the sales tax on feminine hygiene products. That's a pot of money that perhaps we could have used, but he went ahead and signed that. So there was a lot of people celebrating about that. This one on the early childhood learning for the subsidies for the rural areas, it just didn't make the cut.
What's the other bill that he's vetoing today?
The Office of Equity, to really try to get state agencies to have some equity goals, in all of the things that they do, hiring and just kind of look through everything that they do with an equity lens, I think is how it was described. And it required some reporting and a task force. And I think it had about $1 million price tag on it. And that is the part that was vetoed by the governor. But the rest of it, the policy and the idea, there's some parts of it that will move forward.
Do we know yet what the lost revenue is going to look like when this outbreak eventually comes to a close?
Oh, no, certainly not. But it's going to be huge. I mean, just you have to look at it's uncertain. The governor has said as much. And I know I've been talking to some of the lawmakers who are on the budget committees but people are nervous. We had a nice big excess revenue pot going, $3.5 billion, I think, going into this. And everyone felt pretty confident the first week or two as this drags on. And as more, we're under a statewide shutdown order for at least 6 weeks, with most businesses in the state not bringing in any income, not paying any B&O tax, not paying any of their other taxes. Property taxes are on hold, all of that. This is going to have a massive ripple effect down the line, not to mention all of the things that they're trying to do for, unemployment and everything else. There's help coming from the federal government, but nobody knows at this point how long this is going to last, how much revenue is going to be lost, and it's definitely going to leave a mark much worse than I think what we saw in the 2009, 2010 kind of financial recession that happened. This is already surpassing that now.
Governor Inslee says he will now veto about 150 separate expenditures, saving the state about $450 million over the next 3 years.
The Life Care Center of Kirkland faces more than $600,000 in federal fines.
The nursing facility was the site of the state's first coronavirus outbreak. The Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services has now found Life Care failed to report the sudden rise in respiratory illnesses for 2 weeks.
The investigation also found that the facility still took in new patients during that time, and the report uncovered lapses in training, inadequate care, and shows Life Care did not have 24-hour emergency doctor services available.
Nursing home needs to address and fix these violations by September or face the fines and risk losing federal funding. As of now, at least 37 people linked to Life Care have died.
In a statement, the facility says it will work to address the issues, but also notes that it feels some of the claims are wrong and suggests it will appeal some of those findings. And the new news on the effects of this virus have to do with parking in Seattle. And to tell us what's changing, here's Chris Sullivan.
Dave, we are finally getting our free parking in Seattle. Street parking, as of today, is going to be free. No longer have to fill the meter. You're not going to have to worry about getting tickets at this point. It's been one of the big complaints we've gotten from a lot of listeners, like, really? Right now, you're really writing tickets? Why are there still parking enforcement people out there doing this? Aren't there better things to do? And I've been hounding the city for weeks now. Like, guys, what are you doing? What's the plan? Is this going to change? And finally today, they've made the decision. All street parking is going to be free. Hourly time limits are not going to be enforced, which is big. The only place where that's not true is in those the restricted permit zones, the RPZs. So like if you live in a neighborhood, right, like you do around here around Eastlake, you would have to have the proper permit to stay those hours. But yeah, free parking, no time limits on that as well. So that's a very big change for the city of Seattle. They'd already done a few things for setting aside like zones for people who are going and picking up takeout. They'd also done some free street parking around hospitals for first responders, nurses, healthcare workers, things like this. But this now extends paid parking free to the rest of us until they let us know that they're going to start charging again.
I have no reason to drive to Seattle anymore.
Well, but if you did, you don't have to worry about it. Say, for instance, you wanted to park outside, I don't know, somewhere in downtown and take a nice lonely walk on the streets by yourself there. You could do it without worrying about paying or how long you were there and wouldn't have to feed the meter anymore.
So that's a great idea.
Other cities have already stopped charging for parking.
Yeah, Tacoma did this on St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah.
So it's been free there for a couple of weeks. Other cities have some, like, I think Bellevue still charges or had been as of early this morning. Same with Everett, like that. But some they're starting to kind of figure that out because obviously, like Dave said, there really aren't any reasons to go downtown. If you're working, obviously you probably have parking anyway. But the on-street stuff, there really isn't a need for it. But there really certainly wasn't a need to be charging people or potentially giving people tickets, considering how many people are now out of work. And the last thing they need is another $25 charge to have to worry about during this economic slowdown.
So what happens to the meter readers?
Well, that's another question, because obviously they're still going to be working around in those restricted zones, probably. So you would think that they're still going to be working, probably not as many of them out on the streets. They might have a little bit tighter circulation right now. So if you're used to parking in one of those restricted zones, I might be careful because there are probably going to be a few more eyes on those right now because they won't be patrolling the normal street parking in general at this point. So that, as far as I know, they're still going to be working.
You can now buy everything from cupcakes to donuts to socks adorned with the headshot of Dr. Anthony Fauci. Nick Semeraro in New York has been selling donuts with Fauci's face on them. He talked to CNN about the idea behind it.
A lot of people are watching the news, and, we want to give thanks to the people that are really, educating us and letting us know what's out there.
And today, the National Bobblehead Hall of Fame unveiled its official Fauci bobblehead. He was asked about it on Fox and Friends.
I'm sorry. I can't get involved with that peripheral stuff, bobbleheads. That's nice if people want to do it, but I have other things to worry about.
Okay, though, it's all in a good cause. $5 from every Dr. Fauci bobblehead will go to the American Hospital Association in support of the 100 million mask challenge. So that seems like a nice thing to do.
Yeah, indeed. And, Fauci has kind of become a little bit of a folk hero in a lot of ways during this whole outbreak.
Also controversial.
I know.
Because after he started contradicting the president in public, apparently some people got angry enough at him that he's now got apparently a security detail.
You know what? I like the guy. I think you do too, Dave. So I trust the man. And maybe I'll buy one of those bobbleheads as well. We'll see. Support them. Thanks for listening to COVID-19 Seattle. We'll be back on Monday with another 10 minutes of the day's top coronavirus stories in Washington state. In the meantime, you can subscribe, and if you're liking these updates, leave us a review.